Hi everyone, this is Pennsylvania attorney Evan Gutman here with video number 24, we're getting up there now, video number 24 of my legal education series, which is about my book, State Bar Admissions and the Bootlegger's Son, that focuses on the good moral character requirement to obtain a law license. The book, along with two other books I wrote, are available on both of my websites, one of which is titled GutmanValuations.com and the other of which is titled HeavensAdmissions.com. The books also address certain other areas of the judiciary and legal profession that are problematic and interesting issues. Each video contains also a PDF associated with it. So if you're viewing this video on Facebook, you should be able to access the PDF by just clicking on the icon for the PDF, as well as if you're looking at this on YouTube, just go to my websites and you can find related PDF there. Also, I maintain two Facebook websites. One is my personal page, and the other is titled Judicial Constructive Criticism Network, which is also the same title I use for the YouTube page. Today, in this video, I'm going to address the confirmation hearing for U.S. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas. In 1991, which is 35 years ago, Clarence Thomas was nominated to the U.S. Supreme Court by President George Bush. There were surprise allegations that were then made against him regarding sexual harassment, and he was required to testify to such before the U.S. Congress at his confirmation hearings. For those who are old enough to remember the event, the entire nation was glued to our television sets as Justice Thomas testified. And the hearings degenerated quite substantially and became quite like an inquisition, a lot like McCarthyism and the McCarthy hearings that occurred in the 1950s. And Justice Thomas lashed out pretty strongly against the congressional hearings, and justifiably so, in my view anyway. I really did feel they degenerated. So what I'm going to first do is read some of the excerpts of things he said, which are really quite remarkable. And then I'm going to address what happened after he said them and became a U.S. Supreme Court Justice. So here's some of the things that Justice Thomas said right from the transcripts during his confirmation hearing. He said, quote, as follows: "I think that this today is a travesty. I think that it is disgusting. I think that this hearing should never occur in America. This is a case in which this sleaze, this dirt, was searched for by staffers of members of this committee, was then leaked to the media, and this committee and this body validated it and displayed it at prime time over our entire nation. How would any member on this committee, any person in this room, or any person in this country would like sleaze said about him or her in this fashion, or this dirt dredged up in this gossip and these lies displayed in this manner? How would any person like it? The Supreme Court is not worth it. No job is worth it. I think something is dreadfully wrong with this country when any person in this free country would be subjected to this. This is a circus. It is a national disgrace. And from my standpoint, as a Black American, as far as I'm concerned, it is a high-tech lynching for uppity Blacks in any way to think for themselves, to do for themselves, to have different ideas. And it is a message that unless you kowtow to an old order, this is what will happen to you. You will be lynched, destroyed, caricatured by a committee of the U.S. Senate, and then hung from a tree." He goes on to state as follows: "I think this country has been hurt by this process. I think we are destroying our country. We are destroying our institutions. And I think it's a sad day when the U.S. Senate can be used by interest groups and hate mongers and people who are interested in digging up dirt to destroy other people and who will stop at no tactics when they can use our great institutions for their own political ends. We are gone far beyond McCarthyism. This is far more dangerous than McCarthyism. He then goes on to state even further, as I indicated earlier, it is an injustice to me, but it is a bigger injustice to this country. I don't think any American, whether that person is homeless, whether that person earns minimum wage or is unemployed, whether that person runs a corporation or a small business, black, white, male, female, should have to go through this for any reason. And then here's what I consider to be possibly the most important statement of all he makes. And as I sit here on matters such as privacy, matters such as procedures for charges against individuals in the criminal context or civil context, this has heightened my awareness of the importance of those protections, the importance of something that we've discussed in history, in theory, privacy, due process, equal protection, fairness. Now, here's the thing. Here's where it gets interesting. By those statements, it's clear Justice Thomas is coming across as very angry at the system, very angry at the exact type of inquisitorial tactics that state bars use with respect to applicants. He talks about fairness, due process, equal protection. Those are statements that liberals tend to basically like statements like that. So what happened after the confirmation hearings and after he became a U.S. Supreme Court Justice? Well, the answer is as follows. Let's focus on one of the statements he made and what he really, really meant. One of the statements, the key statement that he made, is I think the country has been hurt by this process. We are gone far beyond McCarthyism. This is far more dangerous than McCarthyism. Now, when he made that statement, there's a key phrase that he didn't make, but it reveals what he really was saying. The key phrase that he really left out is he said this is far more dangerous than McCarthyism, but the key phrase he left out after that is as follows: because it's being done to me instead of somebody else. You see, basically, people talk about injustice, fairness, due process, equal protection, the importance of it, when they are the ones being wrong. But when they're not the ones being wrong and it's happening to somebody else, they really don't care. The bottom line is, once Justice Thomas became a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, for the most part, it's pretty widely recognized that, for the most part, subject to some exceptions concededly, but for the most part, in his view, whatever the government does is okay. He's not known as really fostering equal protection. He's not known as really fostering due process. He's not really known as fostering equal rights. If you read his opinions, he's viewed as ultra-conservative, and whatever the government does, for the most part, subject to some exceptions, but for the most part, whatever the president does, whatever injustices occur, he's okay with it. But when it was occurring to him, he wasn't okay with it. And there was a propensity of people to make negative statements about the legal system when they're in a social setting. But notwithstanding, deep down, people initially tend to believe they're going to be treated fairly in a court of law until they're treated unfairly. And then once they're treated unfairly, their viewpoint changes and they become sour on government. The bottom line is people care about injustice when it's done to them. And Justice Thomas was no exception. When it was occurring to him, when he was the subject of injustice, it was a huge travesty to the country. But once he became a U.S. Supreme Court Justice, all of a sudden, everything that the government did, for the most part, subject to exceptions, for the most part, whatever the government does, he's okay with. Doesn't matter who's deprived of equal protection. Doesn't really matter who's deprived of due process. And he goes the conservative route straight down the line. And most people tend to have an initial faith in the courts, believing quite mistakenly that, well, what happened to those people, it won't happen to me. The judge will treat me fairly. So anyway, I hope you found this interesting. It demonstrates the abject hypocrisy of U.S. Supreme Court justices in general. Justice Kavanaugh basically recently went through a similar type of thing in his confirmation hearing, and he lashed out also. So people, all these judges who are no nonsense, straight down the line judges, all of a sudden they become constitutional mavericks crying about due process and equal protection when they are the ones being treated unfairly. So I hope you found this video interesting. We'll have the next one in a few days or so. And remember, love right, don't fight. Bye, everybody.